We shall remain standing, and I'll request the band to lead us in playing the national anthem and the East African Community Anthem. We shall remain standing, and I will request that our religious leaders and leaders in convocation, we will begin off with the Hindu representative to lead us in prayers. Please come and lead us. After that, will be followed by the Muslim representative, and lastly, Father Haman will give final.
गणनान्त्वा गणपतिगुं हवामहे कविं कवीनाम् उपवस्त्रवस्त्रमं ज्येष्ठराजं ब्रह्मणस्पत आनशृण्वन्नोतिभिः ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति. Shanti means peace, peace, peace. Aman, aman, aman. Thank you.
ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا النار اللهم يسر لنا ولا تعسر علينا يا مقلب القلوب ثبت قلوبنا على دينك وعلى طاعتك وطهر قلوبنا من النفاق ومن الرياء ومن سوء العمل. اللهم احفظنا من شرور الناس، اللهم لا تسلط علينا من لا يخافك فينا ولا يرحمنا. اللهم اقض حوائجنا وحوائج المسلمين، لا اله الا انت سبحانك انا كنا من الظالمين. اللهم انا نسالك من خير ما سالك نبينا وحبيبك محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم، ونعوذ بك من شر ما استعاذ به نبينا وحبيبك محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم، وانت المستعان وعليك البلاء ولا حول ولا قوه الا بالله العلي العظيم. وصلى الله على خير خلقه محمد وآله وأصحابه أجمعين آمين.
Lord God, it is an hour of grace, of our human pleasure, of our empowerment from above to be here together to share ideas. As Holy Father is placing in front of us again and again the ideas of cooperation, nobody should be excluded from our initiatives, from our involvement, from our planning, from our gatherings. Lord, let this gathering, be a starting point of deeper and more close relationships and activities, common planning for a better environment, better quality of life for all people, all generations, our pupils, students, families, villages, the population of our growing cities and our countries, our continent. Lord, let Kenya, Nairobi, Africa become a model of new initiatives for the betterment of mankind through ecology, care for nature, care for life. Through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Okay, thank you so much. So the peers are representing the CS. It is a great honor to have accepted to come and grace this occasion to champion and advance ecological conversation. And in our earlier, maybe just to top up, in our earlier sharing about the day, we would also wish to use this forum and many forums to come afterwards to persuade the political goodwill from our especially presidential candidates who, through their agenda or the manifesto, that if we can start compelling or persuading them to include climate change mitigation and adaptation measures in their agenda, then it will be very easy to deliver and to reach to the land that our Creator gave us in the beginning. So I will not talk much because we are behind time. I would request that we'll have Father Dr. Mbaru, who is actually representing the Vice Chancellor of the institution that we are in, to kindly come and give us a welcoming remark and also share something about all this. And of course, we are grateful that we are here, courtesy of the goodwill that the institution has towards ecological conversation. So, Father, then as Father comes, Prince Papa, kindly where you are, is the African Laudato Si movement coordinator. So he will have to speak to bring the background of all that we are talking about. Then I will wind up. Please, Father Doctor, welcome.
So our chief guest of honor in today's event, the permanent secretary representing the CS, the organizers of this event, Father Herman, the entire team of Justice, Peace, and Integrity of Creation, Franciscan Africa, other religious leaders, collaborators present in this event, the host, the Catholic University of Eastern Africa, Center for Social Justice and Ethics, representing the Vice Chancellor, Professor Stephen Bogua, all in attendance, ladies and gentlemen. Today we are gathered here to witness this great initiative of the launch of the 7-year Laudato Si journey in Kenya with the theme Ecosystem Restoration. This is an initiative that has attracted men and women who love and care for our Mother Earth, our common home, inspired by the principles enunciated by the encyclical Laudato Si and the goals thus underscored. This initiative of the 7-year Laudato Si journey in Kenya that aims at ecosystem restoration is an initiative that calls for close collaboration of various stakeholders for its goals to be eventually realized. That is, restoration of our ecosystem in Kenya and beyond. As government ministry of the environment and related ministries, and all other governmental agencies, religious organizations, academic institutions, civil society groups, and other several partners, we are called to develop passionate interest and our readiness to commit ourselves to have various initiatives in the next 7 years to conserve the environment for the restoration of our ecosystem. We are grateful to you all for sparing time to come and spend time reflecting on how we can make this journey together a success, and also enroll ourselves as champions of environmental concern and initiatives that are geared towards restoration of our ecosystem that we so much need. Ladies and gentlemen, as we start this journey, let us strive to equip ourselves with the relevant knowledge of what is required of us to restore the integrate ecosystem, knowledge that will continue propelling us forward as we engage in these initiatives. Of the main source of this knowledge is the encyclical Laudato Si, which has great insights and the goals that it sets for us. It follows the teaching that we have in the Christian tradition and which other faiths identify with, that environmental care, integral human development, and peace are mutually interdependent. Hence, the concern for respecting, sharing, and caring for environment or the entire creation has always been part of the Christian tradition, especially the Catholic Church in her social teaching, and the Church has emphasized that care for the environment is part and parcel of our Christian calling, and it is part of our mission to build a peaceful society. In her effort and advocacy, the Church teaching on the care for the environment has underscored the fundamental message, which is in 3 main positions, or which proposes 3 main positions, namely that 1, we have a moral obligation to care for the environment. 2, we have to respect all of God's creation. And 3, that we have to assure that goods of creation are equitably shared with all. These 3 positions, once adhered to, will give us the impetus to work towards renewal of our ecosystem in Kenya and beyond. In addition, the goals of the Laudato Si, which equally can be considered as practical proposals for this renewal, have been informing the approach towards the care for the Mother Earth, 7 of them, which have been even highlighted by our MC, have been highlighted as follows, and I comment on each briefly. First, response to the cry of the earth. This calls us to look around and see the environmental degradation and the consequences which definitely upsets the intricate ecosystem, and seek to respond to this cry with compassion. Second, response to the cry of the poor. This is an invitation to understand that climate change and in fact environmental degradation affect adversely the poor and the vulnerable persons in our society. They bear the pain. And therefore we are also called to look at the pain of the poor and the vulnerable persons in our society. And by taking care of the environment, we are responding to their cry compassionately. Third, ecological economics. This is an invitation to organize our economic life in such a way that it takes into account the ecological principle. We are called to understand the relationship between ecology and economics, thus knowing that there are local and global environmental limits that we cannot exceed as we pursue economic growth. In short, this helps us to understand the relationship between ecosystems and economic systems. Fourth, adoption of simple lifestyles. The Laudato Si invites us to audit our lifestyle and subscribe to simple lifestyle, whereby we avoid consumerist culture, spending, and waste. Let us note that uncontrolled consumerist attitude and practices have consequently led to waste, causing the problem of waste management that is affecting adversely our environment. The fifth pillar or goal is ecological education. This reminds us that today more than ever before, humanity needs to be empowered through education that is geared towards understanding that we are all members of one community of creation. Learning about the interconnectedness of beings of creation and developing mindsets, attitudes, practices, habits, and strategies that will support interdependence proposed by the ecosystem is the main goal of this ecological education. Sixth is ecological spirituality. If we go by the common saying in the area of theological studies that grace builds on nature, we can state that there is an appeal from Laudato Si to draw spiritual edification by observing the order of creation and respecting it. Allow me to cite Psalms 19, verses 1 to 3, which sums it up. The heavens declare the glory of God. The skies proclaim the works of his hands. Day after day, they pour forth speech. Night after night, they reveal knowledge. They have no speech. They use no words. No sound is heard from them. End of quote of the verse. This helps us to see that creation connects us with the Creator. And therefore, we are edified spiritually when we admire the creation that God gave us. The seventh pillar, or the seventh goal, is community engagement and participatory action. Education informs, forms, and transforms. Once this has happened, action is expected at individual and community levels. We are therefore invited by Laudato Si to take action towards effecting change in our society today towards ecological restoration. What actions are we to take as individuals and communities in the next 7 years? is our great concern and point of reflection. We are therefore called to be action-oriented in combating effects of climate change and other environmental gradational trends. As we conclude this note, let us hear the Laudato Si appeal to respect the environment and share resources of the earth equitably, conscious of the fact that we are all part of the community of creation. We are part of the whole of the ecosystem. Again, we need to understand that by our work as co-creators with the Creator and as stewards of God's creation, we continue with the development of the earth, and we should make it more habitable. Despite the awareness of the call to exercise responsible use of goods of creation and environmental care, we find humanity still practicing what we call dictatorship over creation. This definitely has irreversible negative consequences on quality of life in the universe, and it affects all beings of creation. And it has become quite clear that exploitation and disruption of the intricate natural systems could and do have serious consequences across all boundaries. Among the major consequences, you all know, my brothers and sisters, affecting livelihoods of all beings of creation is the climate change, which is real and no longer a myth. This change has disrupted the intricate natural balance that supports every life in this planet. Therefore, we have to admit that this climate change has dangerously destabilizing effects. It increases poverty and misery, distributional conflicts, and migratory pressure. What we see today is that the ecosystem has been seriously affected by human activities that disregard the biodiversity. Let us therefore, with this meeting today, commit ourselves to be champions that are ready to respond to the call by Laudato Si to restore our Mother Earth. Let us stop environmental degradation. Let us respect what God has given us. Thank you very much, and most welcome to this event, and may we all get out of this place converted. Thank you very much, and God bless you.
Thank you for the Daktari. So because of time, the program was to be a bit lengthy, but then we have to shorten it so that we stick to the time bound. So I'll request that we have Prince Papa from the coordinator of Laudato Si movement, Africa, just a few minutes. Then we have the interreligious leaders who are present. We might not all of us speak because of time, so that we have Father Paul of Messiah. It is a higher level of authority in the Catholic Church where the Laudato Si emanates from, but it's a call to all of us. Then we'll have Sheikh Muhammad. He's the first Laudato Si animator to train as a Muslim brother. So they will represent the interreligious. Then we'll request maybe we'll just be doing the introductions. Prince.
Thank you, Kasisi. To AMESEA, GPIC Africa, IRCK, and all other partners and member organizations, I greet you in the name of our Lord. My name is Prince Papa. I work with Laudato Si movement. There is a global movement working within the Catholic Church to the outside world in ensuring that we care for our creation and listen to the cry of the poor through Pope Francis' Laudato Si encyclical. Pope Francis urges the world's 1.3 billion Catholics and all people of goodwill to take urgent action against the injustice of the climate emergency and the ecological crisis to protect the poor and future generations. His encyclical letter, Laudato Si, is a compelling call to care for our common home, Earth, and builds on a long history of Catholic teachings. We are building a vibrant movement to support and to respond to Pope Francis' call. Laudato Si movement started around 2015 at the advent of COP15. And through this letter, Pope Francis is responding to the situations that we are having, that is the climate crisis. Our mission across the world is to inspire and mobilize the Catholic community to care for our common home and achieve climate and ecological justice. And we work through this in a number of ways. One is on ecological conversion, in which we want the Catholics around the world to ensure that they understand what the teaching says in relation to interacting or living side by side by people and people of other faiths, by creation, living and non-living, in ensuring that we live where we are as God had commanded us. The second area is prophetic advocacy, in a sense that we would like to see that justice is shared equally, that there is no partial justice whenever a poor and the rich are involved, whenever we are sharing the resources that we have freely from our Creator God. The third goal is to reduce on our footprint. We cannot have a stable climate where we excessively and gluttonously rely on fossil fuels for our development. Here in Kenya, we know of a proposed plan to have the first coal power plant in Lamu. We know there is the oil industry in Turkana, but science tells us that in order to have a stable climate, we must stop, desist using these fossil fuels in a just transition way. In Laudato Si, number 11, Pope Francis says, if we no longer speak the language of fraternity and beauty in our relationship with the world, our attitude will be that of masters, consumers, ruthless exploiters. This means that nature reveals God to us and allows us to experience God's presence. That God's presence can be seen on the trees, on the animals, both domestic and wild, on the people sitting beside us. Which respect, how do we interact with these people, especially the marginalized, especially the poor? How do we see God in these people? And I would like to focus on two things today as I wind up Kasisi. Right now we are in a period called Season of Creation. Season of Creation is a time for us to renew our relationship both amongst ourselves and amongst the community we live in. And community entails animals, entails the poor, the rich, entails the plants that we interact with. It's normally every year from 1st of September to 4th of October. And we ask people anywhere in the world to look and examine how we relate to whatever is around us, keeping in the mind that these are not our things. These are God's gifts. These are God's gifts that we have to ensure that they stay longer than us, that when we go back to where we came from, we leave it for those who are coming to replace us. And with this, I come to an end. Thank you so much, and welcome, Kasisi. Have a great event. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Prince. You become the first speaker to be clapped. And that is why I needed him to come and clarify the background of all these things and see the sense that we also need congregation that we have. So when he speaks for the member religious institutions. So Anthony, kindly come and sit as we welcome Father Paul from Amesea.
Thank you, Kasisi, our PS, the guest of honor for today's occasion, the organizers of this event, and Father Barrow, who is representing the VC in our meeting. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I take this opportunity first on behalf of the bishops of Amesea, one, to pass our gratitude to Father Harman and his team for finding it worthy to organize such an event, and especially to create awareness and also to move with the church in implementing Laudato Si. Laudato Si has been in place for the last 7 years now, and the bishops of Amesea in the plenary of 2018 resolved to implement Laudato Si entirely in our region. And so to that effect, what Father Mbaro mentioned, the 7 action points, or what the MC called them pillars, the bishops came up with a standing, especially to create awareness of Laudato Si document in the church. Secondly, also to measure the impact of this document within Eastern African region. And thirdly, to see the effect of this document in also our pastoral activities and how we relate it in our daily lives. And that's why the 7 action points, or the 7 pillars, the bishop said now, we need to come up with a standing. And currently, Amesea is carrying a standing to measure now the effect, the impact of this document on integral human development, all the areas that touches our lives, social, political, economic, and ecological. And so we also proposed to have a guideline that the church and other partners can also relate with this document very closely. And so they said, in every pillar, what is the conversion point? What are we asking the people to do? And they are saying, 1, in response to the cry of the heart, we have a call to protect our common home. That's our responsibility. As members of the family, members of all institutions. Secondly, as we have a responsibility to by protecting the climate by installing either solar powers, insulating our buildings, and buying renewable energy, and creating it where available, and installing cleaner or more efficient cook stoves in our places. That to say that we are relating with this document. Secondly, we are also inviting our conferences, our dioceses, our parishes, including our small Christian communities and other interreligious communities that we relate with, that are to take a stand, an intentional stand on a chronological conversion. That, 1, be sensitive to our construction, how do we also put our buildings, and then our architects, and also our engineers, how are they relating with this document? And this the guidelines that they are proposing, and once they are through, the document will be launched. Secondly, our pastoral agents in the parishes, in the dioceses, in all our institutions. the Caritas involved, to initiate in the dioceses and promote a wider use in homesteads of innovation in biogas, wind energy, energy saving stoves, etc. Another one, that the church entities are also to invest in energy saving technologies for lighting, heating, and transportation, endeavoring to reduce the use of fossil fuel. These are all guidelines that the church is proposing, and once the document is through and the bishops adopt it and launches it, then we shall be saying we are living through to the directives of Laudato Si. Another one, protecting biodiversity by planting native trees, planting trees also. Like I do remember, some of our dioceses have taken initiative every year to plant like 1 million trees in their dioceses. Others have also proposed to have garden for trees, like what you mentioned of, what you want further mention of ecological spirituality. That, you know, traditionally we know our church, and especially going to shrines, places of worship and prayer, in a silent mood. And of course, this solitary mood is always created by the ambience of beautiful trees, which are either indigenous or exotic. And then the bishops are also proposing that where we have land, let us also take part in creating trees within our areas of work. Another one is that we are also inviting the dioceses to develop elaborate plans for agroforestry and agroecological practices. The church, the bishops again, are inviting all of us as a church to mobilize and educate our children, organize farmers towards agroecological farming and also organic farming. Another one, that the bishops are also inviting us to progressively eliminate reliance on inorganic farm input and replace them with organic approaches that affirm various life forms in the farms. Again, the bishops are also promoting farmers, especially to train them and learning from slow food to indigenous scene in our farming. The other one is that the bishops are also inviting all the episcopal conferences, especially to engage into indigenous forests, like I mentioned before, and adapt such forests in a situation where urban dioceses are deficient of land. Of course, we are proposing where the churches have land. Again, also the church is proposing that the parishes, schools, hospitals are to diversify the men to allow for the practice of consuming more diverse food wherever it is possible. Again, we are also inviting the dioceses, the conferences, and the parishes again to promote the extraction and proceeding of non-timber tree product that will affirm the human-to-forest relationships. Again, the dioceses to advocate against the replacement of forests with plantations. Dioceses again to farm, to invest in innovation towards soil restoration and rehabilitation. I may not go into detail to every pillar that the bishops have proposed with guidelines and a conversion point because of time constraint, but I just want to present to you that the Amesea bishops within Eastern Africa took Laudato Si as one of the agenda to be implemented. And actually the conference, the assembly that will be happening next year for bishops in Jerusalem, they have taken the topic on nurturing our common home, which is also drawn from Laudato Si encyclical, to tell you that all of us involved, that let us participate in safeguarding our environment, creating justice for environment, and also supporting the bishops in what they are doing and the Universal Church in what the Holy Father is inviting us to do. I beg to conclude and congratulate the team to tell you that the bishops are with you, the bishops are with us, and the bishops are for this agenda. Thank you, and God bless you.
Peace, greetings all. Salamu alaikum. Tumsifu Yesu Kristo. Namaste. All those are interfaith prayers. To the peers, thank you so much, sir, for joining us and for joining the faith communities in this journey as we begin this journey. I am Anthony Blaze. I am the program officer with the Inter-Religious Council of Kenya. The Inter-Religious Council of Kenya mobilizes faith communities for a common goal. And this is a common goal, this is a common journey that we don't have to walk alone. We need to build synergies. We need to use whatever we have, our resources, as the people of church, as God's people, in fighting this war. This is the only war that we as humans have before us. And we will be judged, I do believe, based on how we perform in this war. It is a war that youths, the interfaith youth, and I truly appreciate one of the executive members of the Kenya Interfaith Youth Network who is in our midst. Thank you, Madam Sujata, for joining the journey and the launch of Laudato Si. Personally, as Anthony, I began this journey. It is a journey that needs ecological conversion, personal conversion first. We need to see that the earth is crying, and if you don't see that the earth is crying, then I think you're not part or parcel of that who are those supposed to see. Then we are supposed to act. We need to act. We need to reduce waste. It is a must. We need to reduce waste. We need to reclaim our green at our places of worship. We need to be deliberate in whatever we are doing. And lastly, we need to judge. We are stewards. We are co-creators. So decisions that we make here on earth, the Bible says, are also rubber stamped in heaven. And there's a sheikh who always reminds me that we don't have to destroy this earth believing that there's somewhere nice that we're going to spend. No. This is our heaven. The Revelation says there'll be a new heaven and a new earth. It is us to realize that the new earth and the new heaven is here before us. Thank you all for taking time to join this journey. As an interfaith community, there is so much similarity within what the Muslims are doing, what the Catholics are doing, the Hindus are doing. The Muslims have this what we call al-mizan, that the balance has been destroyed. We have messed up with the balance, and we have to restore it. So we who are here, who are starting the journey, you're starting a healing process. You're starting a restoration process. And as we even go to reach out to the bigger community, us as individuals, let's start with ourselves. That's what I can say. To the youth, let's take this journey, let's take this war to our digital spaces. Let's use our new technologies to spread the gospel of Laudato Si. Thank you so much, and God bless you all.
Thank you, Brother Anthony. I'll quickly welcome. We understand that environmental issues should be inclusive, and most of the programs that exist, we either by oversight or by default, we forget the persons with disabilities. We know that they can also play a role. Some of the things that we are initiating will prove that. So we have Madam Jane. Madam Jane is a patron of YCS. We met at St. Mary's during the meeting. And she's passionate about environment. And she is a high school teacher that I could be, maybe have a challenge with my physical disposition, but I can still have, I can play a certain role. So please, Madam Jane, please just come, represent the persons with disability, living with disability. You come, then share to prepare after Madam Jane.
Good afternoon. As it has just been stated here, I agree with the philosophy behind this LHC because I realize that we need to balance whatever we are doing on this earth, whatever it is that we undertake to do, because we are really destroying Mother Earth. And we agree with the philosophy of Professor Pili that you are because I am, and because you are, therefore we are. So there are no environmental boundaries. There is no environment for able-bodied people or for persons with disabilities. We are all the same, and therefore we all have a responsibility to take care of this environment. One thing, or one role I intend to play is advocacy. I may not have the physical strength, but I have the mental ability. I have the academic ability, so I can be able to do advocacy so that we educate people. I'm in a position to educate, and therefore I'll join and work hand in hand with this movement so that we can make it happen. And in this issue of the environment and climate change, I think it is very urgent. We can see the problems right wherever we are. So that is what we are coming in to do. And then the other thing I see about our disability here is that we face the greater challenge when there is disasters, when there is lack of water. You can imagine when there is no water, what happens to people like us because we have destroyed the environment, which we are supposed to protect as co-creators with God. So I want to join this movement, work with you people, so that we make this earth a better place, and more so for all of us. I don't want to be very specific that persons with disabilities, but for all of us. Because when I look around, my friends, my relatives, everybody else that does not necessarily have a disability, but the world belongs to all of us. Thank you very much.
Assalamu ala man ittaba al-huda. Peace be upon all those who follow the path of righteousness. For me, it's a coincidence today that the partners that I started off with are both present here. When I was an executive at the Kenya Interfaith Youth Network, we had a theme called Welcoming the Other. In Welcoming the Other, we used to visit each other's places of worship. We first and foremost cleaned the compound. After that, we listened to the speeches of the bishops and the imams. And then last but not least, we plant a tree. When we were introduced to the thematic at Interreligious Council of Kenya and the environment, it was a completely dead thematic. So when our boss, Madam Mirin, was approached to take up the thematic of environment, myself and my brother Robin, who is also present here, we not only took up the environment thematic, but we pushed so hard that as religious leaders, we managed to put a stop to Lamu power plant. And religious leaders, when they take the initiative, things move. If you remember, during multi-party, when Reverend Joya took the beating, democracy matured. When religious leaders took the initiative of Kitui and Lamu power plant, it was put on hold. And right now, we can see the Reverend Archbishop Webukhala has taken up corruption, EACC, and very soon corruption will also be minimized. But mine was to let you know that we can all talk, but when it comes to action, spectators are many, players are few. Personally, right now, under Faith for Earth, an initiative by UNEP, we are pushing for the Eco Court, and we hope that it will be based in Nairobi because UNEP is in Nairobi. As much as we might talk about a lot of things, but until and unless we have a court that can hold the governments accountable, then issues of environment will just be hearsay. So right now we are training the magistrates, beginning from Nairobi and basically expanding to the whole of Africa on environmental issues. And if everything goes well, we'll be petitioning to have the Eco Court through the ICC based in Nairobi so that governments become accountable. And we are very much honored that when I first met the Sinesa movement and got to know about Laudato Si, I was given a book, The 10 Green Commandments of Laudato Si by Father Josh Kortedam. So during one of the webinars I was participating in, he asked, but this was supposed to be a Catholic movement, and I can see Sheikh here. And from there, I hijacked the movement and it became interreligious. Because we might have different beliefs, but our morals are the same. What is a sin to a Hindu is a sin to a Muslim, is a sin to a Christian. So let us leave our beliefs in the temples, in the mosques, in the churches, and come out and unite on the issues that make us one. This earth does not belong to any particular religion. And last but not least, as you can see today, we had intentionally said that every person should carry his own bottle so that we avoid plastic as much as possible. And I call upon the CS and his assistant PS, if possible, you should lead by example. Because when you, as the PS or the CS, are seen to carry a bottle around, everyone else will oblige. With these few words, I say thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Sheikh Muhammad. So before I call the next speaker, I would just recognize any representative from any organization that we invited. Because of time, we might not have that time. Feel welcome. So kindly, if you are a representative of any organization, please just stretch, stand. It will also be a good thing so that we continue. If you are a representative of any organization, member organization, we have DCES from Bungoma, all the way from Bungoma. We have, we have the Franciscans. And by the way, if you didn't know, Laudato Si is a child of the Franciscan charism. We'll know much about that with time. Sister Mary, please wave at the crowd. Then anybody from, I saw some, an official badge from United, the UNEP, United Nations. I saw that sometimes. Yes, please wave to the crowd. I'll request Madam Shiri, where you are, to just stand and wave. Yeah, Madam Shiri is from Thogoto Teachers Training College. Why we have her here, there's a program called Changing Changers. We talk about ecological education. Before we start learning this education in secondary school, in campus, if we target to change the mindset, then we need to first change those teachers who are going to teach the children. And I requested the principal that can we pilot the program in Thogoto TTC, and they were so kind within a short notice to accept. Please have a seat, madam. Phil, welcome. Then I'll go to a special category, the members of the technical working team for the Laudato Si Movement Kenya. Father Haman. Father Haman on the internet is called Babamiti. There are places where he's also called Mukombozi Mpya, or in his accent, he says Mukombozi Mpya. Then we have he's the technical working, the technical advisor. We have Professor Ambassador Koech Michael. He's the patron of our technical working team. We have Mr. Simon Mwiruri. He is the coordinator for Nairobi Archdiocese CJPC, that's the Catholic Peace and Justice Commission, and at least he squeezed his time to be with us. We have Dr. Angeline Chepchirchir. Your seat was at the front, but it is okay. She's a lecturer at the University of Nairobi. She's the chair lady of the technical working team. We have Reverend Frederick Wahisi, who is the CEO of the director of Universal Peace Federation. So please, we are today launching two main activities: ecological education, where we are seeing at the far end there, at some point we'll request after the PS speaks on behalf of the CS and on his behalf, we will go to do the launching where we will hold that book. The book you are seeing, the cover we are seeing on my far left is for a book called Faith-Based Education for Sustainable Development, championed by our member organization, Kenya Environmental Education. So that book, we will use it. We have on my right here, we have a banner for adopt or the 10% forest cover that's going to assist us, that we want to teach people about environment. We'll reach to all schools, all teachers training colleges, all universities, both formally and informally. Then we will have another goal that we are focusing on. The government has attempted and tried so hard and even given us a target of 10% forest cover. And this 10% belongs to, part of it is government land, part of it is individual land, and these individuals will belong to the government. So we can't separate ourselves from the 10% forest cover. We know achieving this, as we are talking, we are at about 7.2%. The 3-point-something%, we want to be the gap to bridge this deficit. We will champion it through the seed ball technology, and the person who will talk about seed ball championing, we will have Rebecca, where you are, please just wave to the crowd so that we invite Honorable Birdi to speak. If you are around, Honorable Birdi, to speak on behalf of Seed Ball Initiative and on her own behalf. Welcome.
Good afternoon. Buenos dias. Distinguished leaders present here, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I'm privileged to have been given this stand to talk about something which is very close to everyone's heart. Ladies and gentlemen, I was nominated in Bunge in 2013, and I was very vocal in the Environment Committee, which was chaired by Honorable Amina Abdallah. So my presence here amongst everyone as we kick off this session today and this process of Laudato journey is to cement and endorse the fact that environment is not just one man's story, it is not just one man's journey, it is something that all of us as individuals from all backgrounds that you may be in must be seen to implement so that we can reach 10% coverage and beyond. And I'm saying this because COVID happened. And we know it is a life-changing phenomenon, global phenomenon. And I'm so happy to see my brother Sheikh here, I didn't expect him to see him here, but he's here, and that also endorses the fact that as leaders, we need to stand together in this very important issue. So mine is to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, that wherever you are, we must take personal responsibilities to move ahead this very, very able project, I must say. Let me just close by giving a very interesting example. Recently, I had a conversation with somebody who is in the energy ministry. And I don't want to say this person's name, but he's very senior. And that gentleman said to me that he's never planted one tree in his whole life. And that shocked me, because I felt that as a person who is in that ministry and knows the interlinking of how energy moves with our earth, would have at least planted one tree. And I said to myself, you know what, this world has got loads of types of people. Those of us who have climbed our careers to heights that we cannot imagine, and yet we have not been able to plant one tree. So I ask each one of us today, will we have planted one tree? And let us not judge the persons who have not been able to do so. Let's pray for them, so that they can also give back to Mother Nature equally. With that, I want to thank Professor Wakisi, and thank you, Father, for inviting me, giving this time to be part of you. And obviously, I also want to use this moment to promise and make a solemn declaration from my part that we shall do whatever we can to connect back to Mother Nature in our capacities. At this point in time, in my current lifetime, ladies and gentlemen, I teach yoga and meditation. And as yogis, we also learn to connect to the earth. So I don't know whether you want to call me a politician or a yoga instructor or what. All I know is at this point in time, I am one with nature. So thank you, and namaste to all. God bless you all.
The one who is just speaking, he represents the Laudato Si generation, the youth movement for environmental issues, acting on the principles of Laudato Si, representing Africa, housed by the Franciscan Association family, still courtesy of, you see, when we talk about Laudato Si, environment in Catholic, we still go back to the Franciscan. So the Franciscans are so key in this. So I would wish to recognize a global peace initiative for the poor. Those who are present, please just stand and wave to the crowd. Representatives from Global Peace Initiative for the Poor. As you can see, it is a member of youth. When we pass this to the youth, we are sure of sustainability of the same. We have Mr. Douglas Sendialo, please, where you are. Because of time, Mr. Sendiano is a bomb blast survivor. We all know this. If the PS can allow, he was to have something small to say, but because of time, the PS could allow, but then the time is not allowing. 14 minutes. Okay, the PS is insisting. So please, Mr. Sindialo, speak. Please come and say something.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon once again. As you've been told, my name is Douglas Diallo. I'm a blind adventurer and also a big and great advocate for environment. August 7th, 1998 marked the turning point in my life when I lost my sight as a result of the American Embassy bombing in Kenya. It was a bright Friday morning, and I was on my way to work on a very busy highway. That's the Haile Avenue. And as I came towards the American Embassy building, I witnessed an altercation between the occupants of the truck and security personnel from the embassy. Then I heard what I thought were gunshots, but these turned out to be hand grenades being thrown at the embassy. And what came to my mind was that these were but gangsters who had robbed the embassy. It never occurred to me that they were terrorists. Then I saw a man run from the scene of the shooting towards our car near the intersection or junction between the Moi Avenue and Haile Avenue. And that's where the huge blast went. And from that day, I have never witnessed light of day again. I became blind. I was rescued from the scene of the shooting to Kenya National Hospital, where Kenyan doctors and German surgeons who were flown in tried their very best to save my sight, but without success. 2 months later, I was discharged. And the doctor in charge, Dr. Goni, told me, Douglas, you know what? After 6 months, you will gain back your sight. But I've been waiting for this miracle to happen for the last 23 years. When it dawned upon me that I lost sight, I was very bitter. I was very angry. In fact, I imagined that if I would have met the men behind that heinous and barbaric act of cowardice, I would have skinned them alive. But down the line, I realized that bitterness only but retards healing. So I started picking up the pieces, and I've moved on with my life through courage, resilience, and determination. Through my rehabilitation, sports, and adventure. In 2003, I rang the bell for the start of business at the New York stock market before embarking on a journey cycling from the World Trade Center all the way to the Pentagon in Washington, D.C., in honor of the September 11 families. When I arrived in Washington, D.C., my hands were numb, my legs were sore, and my bottom felt like ripping apart. I never imagined I would ever ride on a bicycle again. But that served as the beginning of my adventure cycling journey. In 2005, I became the first blind African to reach the top of Mount Kilimanjaro, Uhuru Peak. In 2007, I embarked on a journey of a lifetime, cycling blind, all the way from Cairo to Cape Town, covering a distance of 12,000 kilometers in 95 days. And I became the first blind person in the world to achieve that feat. In 2008, I led a delegation of Kenyan athletes as the chairman of the Kenya National Paralympic Committee to Beijing, China. And out of 13 athletes, we came back home with 5 gold, 4 silvers, and 4 bronze medals. One of my athletes, Ambassador Henrik Norokirwa, got 3 gold medals and went on to be named the UN Person of the Year 2009 and UNDP MDG Ambassador. My friends, it has been a journey. Why am I sharing this with you? I also started a journey of planting trees in all the 47 counties. And before COVID hit, we had done 28 counties. We have been doing this with my friend Rebecca and Team Environment Kenya. So when Rebecca introduced me to Laudato Si, I'm very proud to be part of this journey. Being part of the ecosystem and helping plant the trees in our Mother Earth. Thank you very much. God bless you.
Thank you, Brother Douglas, for the precise information about yourself and about what you are doing for this great common home. So we will invite Ambassador Professor Koech to come and invite the PS. We are headed towards the end. Then we shall see how each one of us can adopt a seed ball as we go, so that in case you don't plant here because of so many causes, at least you have a seed ball. We start promoting the initiative to have, we are targeting to adopt or adapt 30 million seed balls to target the 15 million target that we have. Then lastly, there's a badge that the Secretariat were having called with the writings Laudato Si Champion. Please don't leave without this. It really means a lot to this movement. Thank you so much. Welcome, Ambassador Professor Koech. Those who are still young in school, please soma kwa nguvu so that you have such titles. A title, a whole sentence. Ambassador Professor Koech. Mister, we have even reduced that. Please, welcome.
First of all, I want to thank everybody who is here, who has come, as God enabled us to come, to participate in this important launching of Laudato Si, and also for the honor of the Ministry of Environment and Forestry now, as the name goes, and to have come and participated on, in this function. You don't know how much I value that. I value this because I was born in Londiani, and there was a Kenya Forest Training School. And the principal in those days, when I was going to intermediate standard 5 up to 8, this Mzungu was called B.F. Holland. And B.F. Holland, my wife, my father, my late father used to be his watchman. He used to work for him and didn't realize that this Mzungu I don't know why he liked me. Each time I come from school, and before I even put out the books to start eating something and start studying, he comes and said, "Young man, finish what you are doing and then come to my house, and then I'll want to show you around." You know what he was doing? He was taking me in a 404, shows me all the forests in Londiani, and he used to tell me, "You know, this forest, tomorrow, we want you to manage. You are becoming independent soon, and we want you to manage this forest very well." I even learned the names of the trees in the nurseries through him. And to make a long story short, I didn't realize that later on I'll be participating in environmental issues. And my teacher who taught me standard 6, I think it was geography, the late Job Nyaro, one time asked us in the class, write a letter as if you are in another country, another continent, and you are studying something, and you want to bring that something, skills and knowledge, to your own country after you finish. I remember writing this, and I still remember the way the letter I wrote. I wrote as if I was in British Columbia in North America. Guess what I was studying? Forestry. And many years later on, I ended up in the US, and I studied environmental issues. And the trees that B.M. Holland had taught me at that nursery in Londiani are generally exotic. They were focusing generally on exotic trees, the pines, the cypress, and very many others. Anyway, to make a long story short, many years later on, I came to coordinate the National Environment Action Plan process that was went through the Ministry of Environment. And in the Ministry of Environment, it was called the Ministry of Environment and Natural Resources. In those days, we have kept changing the names, but the name environment remains, and the name forestry has not left that ministry. It is always there. So I'm very happy for the peers representing the minister today in this important function. Now, what I want to just say is that I'm not going to talk about anything, because as I was leaving home today, and I like always to be in the function as early as I can, my family in the house are also environmentalists. They said, are they going to give you an opportunity to talk? And I said, maybe. But they said, maybe you can quote some of the things that we have worked together in the house. Each time I go to meetings and other places, I involve my family. My family are scholars. And then they said, what about the ecumenical presentation you made a few years ago? Then I said, I don't have the time for that because it's a long lecture. But what I want to say is that what has been covered by the 9 people that have spoken here, I won't go through them. It takes time. And I value what they have done. Dr. Mbaru has covered quite a bit, and very many others, and those are very good. What I only want to just say, and then conclude with a quote in the Bible, is that our strength in the GCCM are, I want to highlight a few of them. Our strength that we have, first of all, is God, the Almighty and our Creator, who owns everything, including ourselves. Secondly, we have a technical committee that is committed, and we want to continue working and facilitating the implementation of the Laudato Si in all aspects, including involving, it is all inclusive. And I want to just also say that we have seen that inclusive, including the media, including the animators that we have seen, and I want to just say, may God continue blessing us and assisting us to reach where we want to reach in restoring the environment and benefiting from it, and particularly leaving this environment better than we found it for other generations to come. Now, many people have quoted the Laudato Si, and I'll do my quote as the last, particularly as the Sheikh Khan has already indicated. That necessitated me to quote section or number 67, where the Pope is saying, we are not God. We are not God. The earth was here before us, and it has been given to us. Now, the conclusion in the quote of the Bible is this: the earth is the Lord's. It belongs to God. That is in Psalm 24:1. And to him it belongs. The earth will, with all that is within it, belongs to God. Deuteronomy 10:14. Thus God rejects every claim to absolute ownership. The land shall not be sold in perpetuity, for the land is mine, it belongs to God. For you are strangers and sojourners with me. God is with us in all of this, and God will help us. Let's continue praying, and we are all in this game together. As Pope Francis has said in this book many a times, may God forgive our sins, because we have made so many sins, including deforesting, including ruining the rivers, including pollution of all types, and may God help us to restore what He gave us. And we will be happy, and we will be forgiven our sins. Now, I'm not lecturing here. My job now here, as I've been given, is to invite the chief guest, and I'm also pleased to meet the chief guest face to face today, I've not had the opportunity to go to the Ministry of Environment because of COVID and other things. And God has brought us together here, and I'm very happy. And I just want to say that it's good you came and represented the ministry, and we value what you do in the ministry. So, in inviting the chief guest, do we usually stand up and do some funny, some good things? And what I want to do is, I want to just say, the chief guest, of course, you know, is Dr. Chris Kipto, who is the Principal Secretary, Ministry of Environment and Forestry, and he's here, and we thank him. Can we do some clapping as he comes? Asanteni sana. I don't know other way politicians do things.
Father Haman, who is, I told you I have another name called Mkombozi, and I think I had another one also. Baba Miti. Mheshimiwa Sonia, Ambassador Professor Michael Koech, Frederick Wakisi, who is the Country Director of the Universal Peace Federation, Sheikh Mohammed Khan, and Shujata Kutamraju from the Hindu Council, and all other leaders on the high table, and everyone else. Hamjambo. Assalamu alaikum. Bwana asifiwe. Namaste.
Namaste.
So you have heard, my name is Chris Kipto. I'm currently the Principal Secretary in the Ministry of Environment and Forestry. And I'm here to represent my Cabinet Secretary, Honorable Keriako Tobiko, who is away in Europe. He's actually in Italy. I think he's on his way back home after representing Kenya in the pre-COP conference, which is taking place later in the year. And I will therefore go straight to read his speech, and after that maybe just make a few remarks on my own behalf, and then I will officially declare this launch of the Laudato Si journey open. So, ladies and gentlemen, I am delighted to join the members of the Laudato Si movement this morning as we launch the 7-year Laudato Si journey in Kenya. This event is coming at the right time because first, we are in the process of preparing for the Global Climate Change Conference in Glasgow, Scotland. And secondly, we are in the process of continuing to mobilize stakeholders across the country to grow trees to address the multiple challenges of climate change, biodiversity losses, land degradation, and deforestation. As Kenyans, we are all too familiar with these challenges. Pope Francis, encyclical letter, Laudato Si, which is focusing on care for our common home, is a message to all of us to hear the cry of the earth and the cry of the poor. We are called upon to be responsible ecological citizens, to deepen our commitment to protect the goodness and the beauty of God's great gift. The Pope asks us to recognize the need for climate justice and to do everything we can to pursue it. Investments in forest protection, conservation, sustainable forest management, and tree growing initiatives rhyme perfectly well with a call from the Pope. The Ministry of Environment and Forestry is implementing a multi-stakeholder national tree growing campaign that seeks to implement the presidential directive to increase and maintain forest cover to 10% as required in our constitution. This national strategy is intended to guide our efforts, and it has been developed and approved by the cabinet. We are implementing it
as a shared responsibility where each stakeholder participates in line with their respective capabilities. Increasing the tree cover to 10% is an ambitious program involving massive seedlings production, rehabilitation, and restoration of degraded forest landscapes, and increased tree planting in various landscapes. The government is inviting all of us to take personal and collective responsibility and rededication of our efforts. Ladies and gentlemen, we are aware that the country is losing some of our beautiful forests to agriculture, to settlements, and to other infrastructure developments, and also to unsustainable utilization, overgrazing, and also forest fires. This is happening despite the obvious consequences with respect to sustainable water supply, biodiversity conservation, habitats for wildlife, and loss to community livelihoods. Tree planting campaigns that we are promoting provide us with an excellent opportunity to raise awareness of the forest losses we are experiencing and the urgent need to reclaim our degraded forest landscapes. The Aberdares, the Mount Kenya, the Mau, the Cherangani, the Elgeyo Escarpment, the Mount Elgon, and other forest ecosystems are in dire need for rehabilitation and restoration to their original pristine landscapes. We need to raise our voice on the environmental challenges faced in Kenya and in various counties in particular, which can be directly attributed to deforestation and degradation of our forests. The national strategy for 10% tree cover supports a broad-based institutional and multi-stakeholder participation for addressing these local-level challenges. Faith-based organizations have been identified and prioritized as important vehicles in delivery of the 10% tree cover. Churches and church-sponsored schools, colleges, and other institutions hold a lot of land that can be put under tree cover. They also provide excellent facilities for establishment of tree nurseries and for community outreach programs. The church followers, the children in schools, the pupils and students, as we are all aware, provide an excellent vehicle for culture change in the way we utilize and manage our natural resources. Ladies and gentlemen, the Ministry of Environment and Forestry has already engaged the Inter-Religious Council of Kenya and the Kenya Conference of Catholic Bishops with a view to establishing a strong partnership and collaboration in seedling production and sensitization programs. Frameworks of collaboration have already been developed and signed with the two institutions. The ministry will provide the seeds and technical services, while the institutions will provide land, water, security, and labor for seedlings production and tree growing campaigns within schools and their neighborhoods. Tree growing campaigns will also require to be combined with other initiatives to increase the forest cover. Schools, colleges, and hospitals are perfectly heavy wood consumers and require to invest in other energy alternatives like biogas and solar for lighting and cooking. In addition, the market is rife with high efficiency cook stoves that we are now encouraging schools to use in their cooking programs. The ministry is therefore encouraging adoption of energy conservation measures which will address obvious wastages that we have witnessed and support a culture of environmental and energy conservation in the community. Ladies and gentlemen, as I conclude, I wish to remind all of us that we owe it to ourselves and our future generations to protect and restore our forests and degraded landscapes. As you embark on the 7-year journey of ecosystem restoration, it is important to remember that the resources we are using today are borrowed from future generations, and we owe it to them to use them responsibly and sustainably. I think the remaining part, I will read it once I finish my own remarks. So, that is the speech of the minister. And because I came to represent him, I had to make sure I read fast. So, for me, I want to just add a few things. It has been great coming here. My first engagement on this Laudato Si has been with Bishop Muheria of the Archdiocese of Nyeri, who has been working with us very, very closely. I visited him, and we have a program now that we are going to launch in the next 2 or 3 weeks for 200 schools in Nyeri that have been identified to drive this agenda of tree planting, and especially Catholic-sponsored schools. And I have been accompanied here by Jackson Kiplagat, who is the head of conservation from Worldwide Fund, Kenya, and the WWF is a key stakeholder in supporting our ministry. I'm also happy to meet Professor Ambassador Michael Koech. I think I've read a lot about you. I've seen a lot of things you have done previously, but as you said correctly, I haven't met you. So happy to meet you today. And can we clap for him for the work he has done? It's always good to go to a place and reflect and see who set the pace. I think he was a pioneer of NEMA, and so many things have happened thereafter. And so I want just to say this. We are going to Glasgow because we are in the world has 3 main crises that we are facing. We call them planetary crises. The first crisis is climate change. It's a reality, and most of you have spoken about it. The next one is biodiversity loss. And the third one is waste and pollution, which is a big issue. Those 3 issues are the things that are occupying many governments all over the world. So the journey to Glasgow, everyone is going, but I think this time round we are saying, as Kenya, that we want to see action taken. Yesterday I had a conversation with the Deputy Special Envoy of Climate Change for the US government, and we had a very great conversation, and I'm very impressed with the coming back of the US government to the Paris Agreement and the commitments that they are beginning to make. We are joining the Catholic Church to say we need to see climate justice. We need to see justice in this. And of course, when we speak as government, sometimes we look like we are talking like activists. But the truth is, the heavy polluters, those who have historically polluted the greenhouse gas emissions, have not matched, even though they are members of the Paris Agreement, have not matched the actions with the amount of pollution they have made. So we need to see that them play more than their fair share of contribution of greenhouse gas emissions. Number 2 is that we are looking for greater ambition. Every country to be more ambitious than before, and that ambition to be matched by action. And part of the action will also be climate finance. We are looking for, especially the Copenhagen Agreement of 10 years ago, Prof, when it was agreed that $100 billion would be put for adaptation. And that not much progress has happened, yet a country like Kenya, for instance, we have done a lot to deal with mitigation, to try and sort out mitigation. Our energy mix now is 92% renewable. But and our contribution to greenhouse gas emission is less than 0.1%. Yet we bear the greatest brand of climate change impact. A good example is rising lakes. Recently we had this phenomenon of our lakes rising. And Lake Baringo rose by 108%, doubled in terms of amount of water. Lake Nakuru almost doubled also. Same thing to Lake Bogoria and Lake Naivasha and many. You look at the schools which were submerged, huge. Health centers, even roads were submerged. And irrigation schemes, huge impact on livelihood. We have estimated to just deal with initial work around that to restore, we need about $166 million. That's a lot of money. Yet, we are not responsible as a country really for this greenhouse gas emission, but we bear the greatest impact. So our NDC, which we call Nationally Determined Contribution, which we submitted in December to UNFCCC, is indicating that for the next 10 years, Kenya requires to deal with mitigation and adaptation of climate change. And we require $62 billion for the next 10 years. In Kenya shillings, that's a lot of money. You're talking about $6.2 trillion, Kenya shillings. To mitigate climate change, we need $18 billion. To adapt to climate change, $44 billion. We have committed only around 13% to raise from our domestic sources. The balance of 87% we have to rely on international sources of finance. So one of the ways to deal with climate change is really on the area of forestry, which is why today we have really emphasized on the issue of forest cover. We are pushing ourselves to go to 10% tree cover. We are currently at 7.2. Our scientists have estimated that for us to reach 10%, we need to plant and take care of them at least 2 billion seedlings. We need to successfully grow 2 billion seedlings. So we have been grappling on ways to make sure we achieve this. And I want to inform you that we have made efforts as a government. We thought the first place is to start with seeds. So I really like what I saw today. This is new technology and what we are calling seed balls. For us, as a ministry, we said we want to focus on KEFRI. For KEFRI to improve its capacity, because it's the one that has to do with seeds. Previously, KEFRI used to have around capacity of 10 to 15 metric tons of seed. We have now made efforts to increase its seed centers from 6 to 18. And they will be ready by, hopefully we wanted by December this year, but it may just go up to around February. We'll have 18 seed centers with a capacity of 300 metric tons of seed per year. That can contribute to how much? The scientists say 300 metric tons may give us between 2.5 to 3 billion seedlings per year. So if we have that capacity per year and we do every year, I think we'll really have pushed the forest cover even much higher. And so as we speak now, in the stores of KEFRI, we have 60 metric tons of seed that we want out of their stores and into the nursery. So this week we have been discussing with the PS Correctional Services. We have identified 166 prisons. We have identified 4,800 schools that we want to work together to do seedlings. And the church is invited here. That's why we work with Bishop Muheria. And we are happy to work with you. If you have ready, we are ready to partner together. We work together, we give you seed, and you make sure you produce them, because we have said it's about tree growth. I think we want to change from tree planting to tree growing. Because tree planting is just, sometimes people will see I was here today, I planted a tree, but we have no mechanism to check. So we are focusing a lot on M&E. And so I also encourage you to use our app with KEFRI. Anytime you plant a tree, please register, record it, so that we are able to follow. We will share with you, and please get in touch with us, so that we monitor what you are doing and what the trees you have planted. You can say we can be able to check whether you have succeeded. Finally, I just want to say that on the area of environmental management, there's a lot we are doing on regulation. And we have come up with a new policy called Waste Management Policy. It was approved by Cabinet this year. This waste management policy is calling for a paradigm shift in the way we manage our waste, from linear to circular. I hope you have all heard something called circular approach to waste management. When we talk of waste management, we were saying, going forward through this policy, there shall be no dandora. Are you all familiar with dandora? Yes. Where we take our waste and dump it. This policy and the bill that is now before Parliament is requiring us to segregate waste at source. From your house, from wherever you are, you must segregate waste at source. And you are not going to be allowed to transport any waste which is not segregated. And you shall not receive any waste that is not segregated. And I think combined with the ERP, what we are calling extended producer responsibility, this should be able to help in managing the waste. So with those policy issues, we think that what is very important is education and awareness. And this is why we want to join you in this issue of education and awareness. And so I give you my commitment, and I know with also my minister, that we shall work with our colleagues to make sure we push this through the Ministry of Education so that this book can be circulated to a wider reach of Kenya. So please let us know what we need to do, but we are ready to support you on this. And I think with those many remarks, I really don't want to spend more time. I just want to say that we are saying let's utilize every ceremony that we have to plant a tree. If you have a birthday, plant a tree. Even when you have someone who has passed on, let's plant the number of trees equivalent to the number of years that person lived. You know, let's use every occasion to plant trees. I think with those many remarks, I want to say that it's been a pleasure joining you and looking forward to meeting you in the field. So I finish with the speech of the minister by saying, with those remarks, I wish to officially launch the 7-year Laudato Si journey in Kenya. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So we go to the, you can see the goodwill of the government. It has a lot of good plans. So we want now to go to the launching of the book, where I request Father Haman, I request PS, I'm sorry you sat down, or we could come near there. This is the cover of the same book, so we would wish to do a symbolic way of launching it by just taking the PS, holding it, and Honorable, I will request the members who are at the podium to join us.